Hello and welcome to another edition of the OK Preps Extra Podcast. I'm Patrick Prince, joined as always by Barry Lewis. It's Monday, February 20th, and we got a little basketball to get into. We'll touch on some wrestling and even a little on swimming. But first, Barry, so I'm asking you this at the top because I kind of binged watched it over the weekend. Are you watching Full Swing, the documentary on golf on Netflix?
I have not had an opportunity to do that.
It's pretty cool. It's 8 episodes and it features different players in each episode. Each episode, a different player or players is kind of the theme. And what's cool, it's pretty cool anyway, but what's cool for us is it features predominantly Southern Hills because they filmed it last year. So, like, for example, the first episode is on Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas. And they kind of end the episode with what happened with Thomas's comeback at Southern Hills. It's really cool. And they get into all the live stuff, and it's just it's fascinating. You still play golf when you can, right, Barry?
When I can, but that's not very often these days.
It's not very often for you, is it? It's really cool. Check it out. I think you'll really like it. It's 8 episodes and they're about 45 minutes, but it's pretty cool to see the Southern Hills stuff, but even if Southern Hills wasn't in it, it'd still be really, really cool. But yeah, check it out. You'll like it.
All right. Sounds good. I mean, of course, you know how huge I am in the golf. I had watched the last 2 rounds very intently from the tournament from Riviera the past 2 days. And of course, Tiger Woods making his comeback and just some great golf over this past weekend. So yes, you know how much I am into golf.
And let's remind people, Barry, too, you've played St. Andrews and Pebble Beach, right?
I have.
That's just so cool. Which did you like better?
I would say, there's such different experiences just because, gosh, because of the history, I'm going to say St. Andrews, but both were such a treat. I mean, and this is really hard to compare. But I would say because of the history, and you know how much into history I am, being at the birthplace of golf, that was really cool. And being able to play 36 holes in one day there, didn't do that at Pebble Beach. I just 18, but they're both such incredible experiences. Very thankful.
What's it like to play a true links course?
Oh, it's definitely, you definitely need a caddy. That's for sure. It's just unlike most traditional, it's just very unusual. It's just a whole different approach. And I speak that like I'm not a pro or anything, obviously, but it's just such a different approach. It's in some ways it's a little bit of a different game. So, but it's so much fun. I mean, both St. Andrews and Pebble Beach, they were just a really treat to play. And of course we've got a treat here. I've played Southern Hills 3 times, and each time has just been wonderful. So just very blessed.
Yeah, I shot 112 the day I played Southern Hills. That was fun.
I shot the last time I played Southern Hills was at the 2001 US Open Media Day, and I shot the best 105 I've ever shot.
Oh, all right. Let's move on from golf. We can talk golf all afternoon if we wanted to. Regional play starts for 6A and 5A Friday night. Basketball season's starting to kind of fire up a little bit. What's kind of the matchup you're looking toward on Friday night that we should be paying attention to?
Well, I don't know if it's on Friday night. Well, I'll just say for its boys, just the weekend as a whole, I'm looking forward. I would have to give the edge probably to the regional at Booker T, Washington. That feature also includes Owasso, Stillwater, and Bartlesville. And I think the number one matchup Friday night is Bartlesville against Owasso. But before we get into that, the reason that this regional is so fascinating is because of the 4 and 5 seeds, Booker T and Owasso, because 2 weeks ago when the pairings and seedings originally came out, Owasso was 4, Booker T was 5, and it was going to be at Owasso. But then the OSSA discovered a glitch in their computer program, and there was a calculation error. And so 24 hours later, they reversed it. And as it turned out, after the calculation error was corrected, Booker T Washington came out as the 4th seed, Owasso 5. So Booker T gets to host. So, of course, you can imagine Owasso didn't really care for that at all. I mean, what a roller coaster of emotions that was. And so that added fuel to their rivalry, which already was pretty high last year. If you remember, they ended the regular season with a showdown at Booker T Washington and a battle. Owasso needed to win a share of the conference title. And of course, there was already little heightened feelings between the schools because Aaron Potter, who was Booker T's best player last year, well, along with Cam Parker, he had moved over the offseason from Owasso. And so there's already a rivalry, and they'd already played a pretty intense game at Owasso earlier in the year that went down to the wire. And so they played another intense game down to the wire. Owasso wins, and their feelings were running really high after the game. So the rivalry's at a fever pitch anyway from what happened last year. And so you go to this year, and you have this unfortunate calculation error adds fuel to the fire, which had been relit again because Booker T and Owasso were supposed to play the last week before the rankings came out, final rankings came out, but the game was snowed out. And so Owasso wanted to reschedule it for that Saturday. But Booker T did not want to play 3 games in 3 nights. And they had other scheduling conflicts, so it didn't happen. So the game didn't get played at all. They're in the same conference. They didn't play each other at all this year. And Owasso I think Booker T wanted to reschedule it for after the rankings day, but Owasso just wanted to move on. So they haven't played at all. They're in the same conference, haven't played at all this year. But they'll be playing. If they both win their first round games, they'll be meeting on Saturday night at Booker T. And so it's just going to be really intense. But the part of Owasso falling to the 5 seed is that now they've got to play the 12 seed, which normally wouldn't be that big a deal. Normally, in 90% of the instances, the 5 seed wins easily in these matchups. But the 12 seed in this instance is Bartlesville with David Castillo. And whenever David Castillo is one of the best highly recruited guards in the nation, he gives Bartlesville a chance to win anytime they play. Bartlesville's only 8-14, but they're really dangerous 8-14. The time Bartlesville played Owasso this year, which was 4 weeks ago, the game was tied up going to the last seconds. And then Owasso's Bowden Williams hits a 3 as time expires to win the game. So that was a down to the wire game. And now Owasso's got to play Bartlesville again. And so Bartlesville's not a normal 12 seed. So this adds to the intrigue of this regional, which already has enough storylines. It's amazing. So I know that was a long explanation, but there's a lot going on. And then the Bartlesville Owasso game is incredible anyway. The Owasso Bartlesville game is going to be incredible because you got Castillo and Jalen Montanati. You got 2 great players on the court at the same time. So there are so many things going on at this regional.
No doubt about it. How is Bartlesville under 500 with such an outstanding recruit, Barry?
Well, it is a team sport. I mean, last year Bixby didn't have that great a season. It takes more than one great player. And this year, Parker Frederickson, Bixby, you look at Bixby this year, they're 19-4. Last year, they struggled. Parker Frederickson has taken his game up a notch, but he also has a better cast around him, too. I mean, Bixby is not just Parker Frederickson. And I think most great teams, even though they may have a superstar, the superstar's got to have help. So
that's fair, but I would think a superstar at that level would at least get you over 500. Now, granted, to be fair, I haven't seen them play. I don't know. I would, in a sport like basketball, where a star can really transform your team, I would think they'd be at least above 500. But you've seen them and I haven't. So,
well, and I've seen Bartlesville several times, and I would say that. I mean, I expected bigger things from Bartlesville this year because I thought last year they made a big step up. David Castillo had a really good year, and they made strides last year. They looked like a program on the rise. They had a winning record. And, I mean, they were so highly thought of, they were invited to the Tournament of Champions. Tournament of Champions doesn't invite teams that are going to have losing records. But for one reason or another, it just hasn't happened for Bartlesville this year. They do play a tough schedule. They're playing the Frontier Valley every night. They played the Tournament of Champions. And David Castillo's scoring average is down. I guess when I've seen them play, I think they've got some talent on that team. They beat Union. They've shown flashes. They've lost some close games, like that a game against Owasso. I just keep on thinking, I think Bartlesville's really, I mean, I could have seen if some more close games had gone their way, that record could be flipped to 14-8, but for some reason they just have come up short a lot. But this is playoffs are a second season. Everyone's 0-0. That's what everyone says. So they're a dangerous team for Owasso. Owasso knows, I mean, they're very aware because of what happened 4 weeks ago that they're going to need to bring their A game. They can't look past Bartlesville. And again, it's very rare when you see a 12 seed upset a 5 seed in the playoffs in Oklahoma. It happens a lot in the NCAA tournament, but not in the Oklahoma playoffs. But this is a very dangerous opponent for an Owasso team, which is trending in the right direction.
I'm kind of intrigued by Booker T's BJ Harris, Barry. What can you tell us about him?
He is on a really hot streak. He's averaged 22.5 points over his last 4 games, and he's a guard. And so he scored basically 90 points over the last 4 games, and none of them have come on a 3-pointer. So a little bit of old school there.
Yeah. How does he do his scoring?
He gets a lot of stuff. I mean, mid-range shots, stuff inside. He gets in there in battles. He scores, but he just doesn't do the 3-pointer. So Booker T as a team was shooting a lot of 3-pointers earlier in the season, but they weren't making many. So I think there was a conscious effort from Coach Eli Brown to, if you're not going to be making a lot of if you're not shooting at a very good percentage of 3-pointers, how about shooting less 3-pointers and emphasize the higher percentage shots? And I like that approach. I mean, just because everyone shoots 3-pointers, if you're not a good 3-point shooting team, don't force it. Yeah.
Barry, let's talk about inside-outside contest for just a second. Of course, we published all the candidates in Sunday's paper. What would you like to say about that contest, which goes on till March 3rd, right?
Yes, 3 p.m. March 3rd. And it's just a contest we have a lot of fun with. We put up the 60 overall because we got 4 different races that you're looking at, elections. We got Ms. Inside, Ms. Outside, Mr. Inside, Mr. Outside, and just like to have a lot of fun with it. The readers get to choose who they think is the best or who their favorites are, just like we do in the preseason with all world football. And the difference here is that this is in season. So I encourage everyone to vote for their favorites. Again, it's something we have a lot of fun with. And a question I do get from some people is that I get asked, well, so-and-so, don't you think he's more of an outside player? Rather, more of an outside player than an inside player, but you have him on the inside as an inside player. Well, in order to get, the best players possible in the contest, sometimes I sort of stretch the definition a little bit on some players when I think they're plausibly could be an inside player, even though they may play more outside, because I'm trying to there's usually more better outside players than inside players, especially these days.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ever see a case like that and wondering why a player's on the Mr. or Ms. inside when you might consider them more of an outside player, that is why. That being said, especially for outside players who have a lot of qualities of an inside player, like they're picking up a lot of rebounds and that they're fairly good size. I'm not going to put, on the boys' side, I'm not going to put a 5'9" guy who averages 1 rebound a game as a Mr. Inside candidate. So hopefully that'll answer some questions if anyone wondered why a player might be listed as an inside player when they consider them more of an outside player. So that player if I put them on inside, I do feel that those particular players might have some inside qualities.
All right, and let's talk a little bit about wrestling and swimming. Swimming obviously finished up last weekend, and wrestling is kind of like basketball, getting to the meat and potatoes of their season.
Yes, wrestling in Oklahoma City, Friday and Saturday, boys and girls, and some great regional action this past weekend. And so we'll have John Tranchina there to report on it this weekend. So look for our coverage from the fairgrounds in Oklahoma City of state wrestling. And then last weekend, swimming wrapped up the season, and what an ending to the season it was. Oh my goodness. I mean, 3 of the 4 state meets went down. I mean, were decided like by a point. I mean, it was crazy. Nothing like this had ever happened again. So many great, exciting meets just decided by the thinnest of margins. So what an incredible weekend it was. Bishop Kelly boys in 5A prevail in a thriller. And then the Jinx girl in 6A, Jinx girls win by a half point over Bartlesville.
Wow.
And then the Jinx boys barely lose. They barely miss out on another state title by 1 point. So Edmond North. So it was an incredible weekend of swimming in Edmond at the state championships, which John Ridnour covered for us.
All right, Barry, what else is on your mind?
Oh, I think that will do it. Although, from a college basketball standpoint, when I was watching ORU the other night, I was just thinking, what a year of extremes in men's basketball. From an ORU standpoint, it couldn't be much better than it is right now. These are really like times to relish from if you're an ORU fan. 25-4 undefeated at home, and then at TU, it can't get much worse from the men's standpoint this year when you're 5-21, and now for whatever reason it's been a while since they played a competitive game. So it's just really weird. It's not the first time it's happened this way, although it's been a long time since it's happened, that you have 2 programs at such extremes. So I just find that really interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, we appreciate everybody listening in. Barry and I usually record on Mondays. You can download us for free at Google, Apple, or Spotify. Barry, as always, appreciate the knowledge, and we'll talk next week.
Sounds good.